New Orleans, 1919? A city wrapped in music, shadow, and superstition?
The rain was soft that night, brushing gently against rooftops like a quiet warning. Inside a modest home on Upper Line Street, the Giordano family was settling in.
Candles flickered.
The aroma of old bread and garlic lingered in the air. And somewhere, a jazz tune hummed faintly through the walls. A record from a neighbor's gramophone, warbled and distant.
Carlo Giordano stood by the window uneasy. He had read the newspaper again that morning. Everyone had. Axeman writes letter to city, promises blood, spares jazz.
The letter was printed in full. No one could believe it.
Signed the Axeman of New Orleans. The writer claimed to be something not fully human, a demon, a phantom, a force of vengeance. And he promised to kill again.
At 12:15 a.m., March 19th, I will pass over the city. Those who play jazz, however, will never taste my axe.
It was absurd. It was theatrical. But the bodies, the blood, those were very real.
Carlo turned to his daughter, Rosa, who was reading quietly on the floor.
Tonight we leave the phonograph on. All night.
She didn't ask why.
Across the city, a nervous energy pulsed through the streets. Jazz flooded from nearly every home and business. Bars stayed open late. Clubs were packed. Even churches held impromptu music services. Not for worship, but protection. From the French Quarter to the Garden District, trumpets and saxophones screamed into the night as if trying to drive back a ghost.
And yet, there were pockets of silence. It was just past midnight when a man named Vincent Morello awoke suddenly to the sound of something creaking. He lay still, ears straining. Then, a soft thud. Not from the front, not from outside, from within. He rose, heart pounding, and stepped barefoot onto the cold wooden floor. The house was dark, but moonlight painted thin slashes across the hallway. He followed the sound. The back door hung open, not broken, but removed, like someone had carefully carved the panel out. That was his first terror, the precision. This wasn't chaos, it was calm, deliberate. And then he saw the axe. It was resting against the doorframe, silent, almost casual, as if it had simply wandered there on its own. Vincent didn't scream, he didn't move, because just then he felt something behind him. He turned slowly, but the figure was already gone.
By morning, 2 families were dead. The Papaglias and the Cotimiglias, both grocers, both Italian immigrants, both murdered in the same night. Each attack was the same. Entry through a panel, chiseled from a back door, the victims bludgeoned in their sleep with an axe, often their own. Nothing stolen, nothing said, just blood. Silence, then vanishing. The city was in hysteria. The police were baffled. The mayor blamed foreign vendettas. The people blamed voodoo, demons, spirits, and the Axeman? He said nothing more. But jazz became a kind of religion. People played it like their lives depended on it, because maybe they did.
A week later, on a fog-heavy evening, a woman named Clara Rossi sat at her piano, eyes darting to the clock. 11:57 p.m. She had no electricity, only a rusted, upright piano and her terrified fingers. The rest of her family was asleep. The silence outside was unbearable. Even the birds were gone. The fog seemed too thick, like it had weight. Her fingers trembled. She pressed one key, then another. She began to play. Clumsy, broken jazz chords she didn't understand. But it was noise. And right now, noise was everything. 12:05 a.m. A floor creaked upstairs. She kept playing. 12:09. A window shutter slapped open. She didn't stop. At exactly 12:15 a.m., her piano's low G key stuck. It gave off a flat, lifeless tone.
And then, footsteps inside the house, heavy, slow, confident.
She froze, hands off the keys. The jazz died.
The steps paused, then turned, and retreated. By dawn, the Axeman had struck again. 2 houses down. A man and his son, slain in silence. Their back door carved out like puzzle pieces. No screams, no sounds.
But Clara lived. She would later say, "I didn't see him, but I felt him. He was listening."
Months passed. There were no more letters, no more warnings. But the deaths continued, sporadic, like reminders. All the victims were of similar background, mostly grocers, often Italian, and all killed in their own homes.
The people begged the police for answers, for suspects, for arrests, and a few were made.
But nothing stuck. The killers were never confirmed. The Axeman simply stopped, just like that. The terror didn't end with a final attack or dramatic capture. It faded like smoke, without reason, without closure.
Years later, jazz would become the soul of New Orleans.
The Axeman faded into ghost stories, into whispered warnings, into something between history and legend.
But some say he never left.
That every now and then, late at night, you can hear the same rhythm echoing in alleyways.
That if the music ever stops and the silence creeps in, he returns. Listening.
And holding an axe.